This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics, and we promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Jonathan Maxim, CEO at HeyPal. Jonathan, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Art.
Terrific. Thank you for coming. All right. Go viral. How many times have you heard this catchy phrase? I bet a lot. No doubt. Every app marketer would love her or his app marketing campaign go viral. After all, an app marketing budget quite often isn't that impressive. And getting your potential users' attention spending less money as people themselves spreading the message about your app is pure gold. Now, how do you make your app social media campaign go viral? Today, we have Jonathan to help us to answer this question. But first, before anything else, Jonathan, please tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. And what an interesting question. Yeah, so my name is Jonathan Maxim. I'm a former marketing strategist at a large company. I left to found my first mobile app in 2014. It was a fitness app that gives you rewards for working out. And rewards, I think, is going to be a narrative we see throughout this conversation, especially when we talk about going viral. But anyway, I founded that app in 2014 and sold it in 2017. And then went full-time to become a growth marketer. Opened up a growth hacking shop that now has 29 people. And just this past year, came to work with HeyPal. I was hired as the CEO in June of last year. And we launched in July. And we just crossed the 1 million downloads mark. And it's been an awesome ride. We had some viral moments with HeyPal, no doubt. So I'll be excited to share about some of those. So yeah, that's kind of the vantage point I come from. I'm based in Los Angeles and have 2 lovely dogs.
Yeah, that's a nice summary, Jonathan. Congrats with the first 1 million.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a big landmark. As an entrepreneur, the landmarks, you think they're going to feel a lot better than they do, but it's just another day in business, to be honest. But
absolutely. Hopefully, that's not going to be the last 1 million. It's just the beginning, your first audience.
The first 1 million, yep.
Yep. So tell me about the company. What is HeyPal? Is it any affiliation to PayPal?
No affiliation to PayPal. Although I think we gained some good runoff benefit from that. So HeyPal is the social language learning platform. So think of it like Facebook for language learning. You can translate messages or posts in real time. So, Art, if you post a picture of, hey, look, I'm in Paris, here's my coffee, you can translate it to French on the spot. Or you can post it in English and I can translate it to French. And then when I, start a conversation with you, I can, translate the messages you send or the messages that I send. So it makes it really easy to speak with somebody from another country if you're trying to learn a language. The whole idea is to fill the gap between curriculum learning and practice, right? So in the middle, there's the social practice, right? So that's really where we fit in. And I think people have taken to it nicely. We just rolled out our V2 version in, I guess it would be February, where we had, it will give you conversation starters, or it can help you practice vocabulary with your new friend. So it has a feature called Pen Pal that allows you to match with study buddies. So you can find somebody, let's just say you have a trip planned to Colombia, you can find a study buddy there and start conversations with them prior to your visit and, potentially meet up if you guys become friends. So it's really, the social glue on the language learning space. And I think, given today's, the world is flattening out, it's becoming more of a global marketplace. I think this is a good time for it, especially as influencers come to build new audiences and want to expand into languages that them or their audiences don't speak.
Right. I think Duolingo has proven the idea that learning language by example is pretty awesome. And when you're adding the social component on people helping each other, and there's interaction, socialization between groups of people living in other countries, that's awesome. Speaking of countries, what countries do you support at the moment?
We support them all, which is probably our biggest Achilles heel in a way. It's the biggest blessing and the biggest downfall in a way, because every day somebody's saying, hey, you're not representing this language in this country. There's a lot of countries and there's a lot of languages, but whenever we find that we're, not present in a certain area, we will add it. We'll add the language capability and stuff. So it's really quite global.
Got it. So I think it's everything, every country except Antarctica, unless you guys support.
Not yet, but it's on the roadmap, as they say.
Right. Okay, so by now, social media marketing is a kind of a part and parcel of the digital marketing overall. But how would you define what is social media campaign today? What components should go in, and the most important, what kind of KPIs should you measure for every campaign you're running?
That's a smart question. And I love talking to somebody who knows about this stuff, because it's the questions become so gripping in a way. But my perspective is that historically, social media was about organic, right? So just regular people posting, connecting, the trust factor, the testimonial factor, you getting recommendations from a friend. And then we moved pretty heavily toward paid advertising. And that's really how a lot of companies scaled fast. And I think today, social media it's more than just organic marketing, and it's more than just paid social. Today, the two play nice together. I think, whenever somebody asks me what growth hacking is, I tell them it's where the paid and organic meet, but which also fits into a more omnipresent overall marketing strategy. So I think social media is one component of the marketing strategy to make things go viral. So nowadays, when I think about a social media campaign, the most important part is that we're creating trust, right? We're getting real humans to use it. Generally, this is how the two meet. We often have influencers create videos, and then we use those videos for ads rather than doing some corporate commercial. The ads that have an influencer or a real human in them, they convert better. They have better click-through rate, better conversion rate, even though they cost less and the production quality is lower. They look like something that was filmed in someone's living room. And in fact, it was, right? Yeah. So that's one of the techniques. So oftentimes, like if we have an influencer post, let's just say an Instagram reel, and it gets, 100,000 views on it, and then we turn it into an ad, by the time we're done, like we have one video that is an organic selfie video that has 5 million views on it, because we amplified that with advertising. So that's really how I look at a social media campaign. It's creating authentic content, getting real testimonials and credibility from the creators, and really getting something that they like and stand behind. Like when we interview an influencer, we say, are you learning a new language? Because if not, then you're not a fit for the platform. Some musicians and artists wanted to come on the platform, but they weren't learning languages. And we're like, well, with all due respect, like we want people who are here to learn a language. So we really make sure that they're emphatic and excited about this, this new pursuit, this learning pursuit. And there's a benevolent component to that, right? Like we really like the fact that learning languages helps the world in a lot of ways. People who learn a new language earn on average 30% more salary. So anyway, all to say, the social media campaign, it's become like a flywheel, right? There's multiple aspects to it, and you have to take them all into consideration, because just growing organically is not even a consideration anymore. You can't just do a one-directional campaign for organic growth and expect it to go viral. Although there are techniques, it's not as sustainable.
Right. I totally agree that even though you may be tempted to, approach any particular influencer and just trying to, let's just kind of a game the system and pretend like you're trying to learn the language, but that would be a disaster. If this is not happening naturally, it's not worth it. Just consider how many influencers out there you can work with, and there's always a situation when they, for real would like to learn a new language, and the messaging will be so natural, will be perceived so nicely by the followers. And just getting back real quick to the KPIs, just from the top of your head, what would you say of 2-3 KPIs you would like to be on the list for app marketers when they run the social media campaign, and what do they measure actually?
The app industry is vast. To navigate this space, you need a directory to look up suppliers and partners, and you need to know who are the best. Visit our marketplace directory at businessofapps.com/marketplace/podcast. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, great remark. And it looks like I missed that before. But the KPIs that I think we should always be looking at, we should have 3 to 5 management KPIs and not really see much else than that. The media buyers and the people lower and the further downstream can manage all the different KPIs. But for me, again, the old app marketing is just shooting for conversions, bottom of funnel, pushing as hard as we can to get downloads. Now we need the full funnel, right? Things have become much more competitive, especially on social media ads and so on. So the KPIs that I'm looking at are reach at the top of the funnel. I know it's, a lot of people consider it a vanity metric, but we have to get out there. We have to get seen. And the transparency and metrics, like a social media post that has 5 million views on it, that creates a lot of validation. So people definitely trust and click more when they, see that millions of people have already seen it. So reach, click-through rate, always. Click-through rate is the main measure of the quality of creative, right? How strong is your offer? How strong is your call to action? How strong are the visuals? How catchy is it? How good is the hook, the first 3 seconds of the video or the first slide of a carousel? The click-through rate is a very determinant factor. And there's a whole department that is their one thing is click-through rate. That's their one metric on how they're measured, right? So their performance bonuses and stuff like that come off of how the click-through rate is on their creative. Very, very important to us. And then I'm going to say 4 instead of 3 if you'll let me. The cost per install, right? Cost per install, whether you're running organic or paid, there's always a cost per install. You're either doing the work with human muscle, right? Like there's human resources and hours going to it, or you're paying advertising. So there's always a cost per install, and understanding that and being candid with yourself that downloads are not free. They'll never be free. You can have stuff go viral and you can have very cheap downloads, but it's never going to be free. So understanding the cost per install on a geographic basis is very critical, because like one of the techniques we use to go viral is we will run a global campaign with smaller countries that are easier to outrank in the App Store. So upon launch, HeyPal is ranked top 10 in 30 different countries. So that virality of, ranking at the top of app stores not only got us a ton of free downloads, free, because we were still paying for marketing, but it brought our cost per install down from like $9 to $1. And in some areas, the installs are coming for like 30 cents each or less. About 33% of our downloads during the launch came from people App Store search and App Store browse. So ranking high, having that organic, the ASO, SEO type of stuff going on, it really dilutes the cost per install, brings down your costs overall. So that's a huge focus. And understanding by region, if you can have an app that you can run internationally, there's no reason that you shouldn't, right? There's still real humans downloading it. They're still engaging. Oftentimes in developing countries, people are more engaged on social media, especially like for an app like ours, or, if they're learning a new language, they're in like Europe where a lot of countries are nearby each other. It's a great market for something like that. I think a lot of people kind of don't know why they don't want to target certain regions, but if you can grow the platform, if that's your goal, or if you can grow revenue, you should. So always looking at the cost per install by region. And then of course, the 4th metric, and everything is in relation to each other, right? Like the click-through rate and the, of course, like the click-through rate, conversion rate, CPM, all those type of things. But really the click-through rate relates to the cost per install, which relates to retention, right? Mm-hmm. So I think historically we used to look at D1, D7, D30 retention. Those are still very important. I'm still looking at those all the time. But the most important metric in my mind is not monthly actives, but active users, period, right? And I know recently a lot of us have been looking at DAU versus MAU. So how many of our active user base uses it on a daily basis? It used to be MAU, I think. And so now that we're looking at our total active users, it's a very honest metric, right? You can't fake it. This is the total number of people who use your app and actually like it. So whenever I'm looking at, like, let's just say a social media campaign, maybe we have like 4 different ad sets that are running and they're scaled, or we have, an organic campaign and a paid campaign running, I'm looking at which audiences have which click-through rates, which cost per install, and how engaged are they? Which features are they using? Are they using the translate? Are they using the messaging features, the pen pal? So it really ultimately everything comes back to the goal of the company, right? If the goal is just viral growth, then whoever spends the most time in the app, average engaged session time and cost per user going down as much as possible. But a lot of businesses like HeyPal, they make money. HeyPal has a premium subscription, so I want people who are sending a lot of messages, because that's one way. When you upgrade, you can get unlimited messaging. So unlimited messaging, unlimited new chats, unlimited swipes on pen pal. Those are the KPIs that I'm looking at in relation to the cost per acquisition and all of those other metrics I talked about, because at the end of the day, I'm eventually going to need to convert those users to paid users in order to make the platform capitalize and profitable and things like that.
Gotcha, Johnson. I particularly like that you mentioned going international, because for the apps like yours, which provide the value to people who may not just afford the more expensive apps, but they still need to learn language, because the world is big, and we really should pay attention to the corners of the world that are not covered by apps that create this North America and Europe. And you can still reach out those regions and find your customer there. It's just a matter of perspective and how well you can spot the pockets of the potential users for your app in different regions of the world. And now let's switch to the notion of going viral, because it's kind of a mantra for every digital marketer around the globe. And so how would you define the moment when the social media campaign actually going viral?
Hockey stick growth, as soon as things start going parabolic or exponential, really, I think there's degrees of virality. Everyone likes to think that, this is viral because it's got, a million views on it or something like that. Really, you should define what viral is to yourself and decide how you want to achieve that. It's just one of the metrics that you would use to gauge success. So for me, going viral is when, the cost per acquisition drops exponentially, right? But the way we see it is how much free reach and how many free downloads are we getting? How many people are sharing it on their own and doing our marketing for us? And that brings in the most important thing, which is why influencers have become such a pivotal piece of everything we do today, because everything is based on their testimonial. Everything is based on a friend's recommendation. If Art is to recommend to me, like, hey, you should get this podcasting microphone, I mean, who am I going to trust more than you? Or right. If you want to talk to me about SEO marketing and ASO and apps, I mean, I know I can trust you about it. The podcaster that I listened to for like 5 years, Tim Ferriss, if he recommends podcasting equipment or anything he recommends, I buy it. I'm a fanboy at this point, right? So the validation from influencers is really whether it's influencers or friends, like nano influencers, micro influencers, or macro influencers, their validation is typically what makes things go viral. So that's why we use user-generated content. That's why we have them create posts and then we promote those posts. We boost them, as they say, because everything is all sales and opt-ins happen on a recommendation. I've seen sales pages that are 100 testimonial videos and call to action. They might have zero content. All the fitness products are like that. 1,000 before after pictures. And then, so because of the one person recommending to another aspect of, that's how buzz is created and that's how referrals are done. Referrals, everything comes into the picture. Referral campaigns, giveaways, sweepstakes, any kind of coupon codes, offers, etc., that help people share it is a huge aspect of going viral. So all the additional reach that you get from referral campaigns or giveaways or anything that involves social validation, social momentum, that's how I define virality, but that's also how you go viral.
Right. And I would say there's no clear-cut one definition of what is going viral in terms of numbers. Yeah, you may look at the apps, the size of, Slack or TikTok, their virality, but this is just an inspiration for your particular case, for your app. The metrics, the actual signals that app is going viral will be unique. And yeah, absolutely. You'll be seeing that your costs are going down while your app is going up, but the number of downloads you're getting will be, completely unique for your app because this is a completely different market, completely different number of users potentially sitting out there just waiting for your app to arrive to the app store so they can grab it. Now, well, everybody does mistakes. Are there any mistakes in social media marketing and running campaigns that you would like just people stop doing?
That's so funny you asked that. I was just thinking about the pitfalls of virality right now. And I was hoping you would give me a chance to pepper that in because I think a lot of
let's
people...
pepper it before the mistakes. Sure, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a mistake that a lot of people make is that they go viral and they don't realize what the implications are. So let me just outline the common mistakes of virality. First, people don't know what they're going for. Are we going for reach, or are we going for downloads, or are we going for sales, or are we just trying to spread a message, right? So those 4 different kinds of virality are all different. So if you just shoot to go viral, you might get a ton of views on a video, but get no conversions, right? How valuable is that? I mean, in the short term, definitely not that valuable. So a lot of people this is a mistake that, I've certainly made myself, and there's a whole list of mistakes that I've made that I could share on. I think those we remember negative events more poignantly than positive events. That's where we learn the most. So I'm quite proud of them. But when it comes to virality, if you run a campaign that has a strong incentive for action, the stronger that incentive for action is, the more of a drop off you have after. So a lot of times people will have an app, get 10, 100, 1 million downloads and in a very short time frame, and then all those users will fall off. Your retention will basically be 0. And so oftentimes that does more damage than it does good because your first impression with these million users is now wasted away. So when we think about a common mistake, especially with virality and the glamorization of virality, we have to have the follow through. So you either have to have a CRM marketing sequence, push notifications, in-app experience that guides people through their first 30 days. Like with HeyPal, we have 30 days of SMS, 30 days of push notifications, and 30 days of in-app notifications. And we're going to build that out bigger and bigger. So new people who join the platform, immediately we engage them. Hey, post a picture of your dog in the new language, right? So post a picture of your dog in Spanish. What's your favorite food in the country that you're from? Post it in French or whatever. So we're teaching them how to use the app, engaging them after the fact, etc. But we only learn things like that after we've made that mistake, right? Like the first time I had my app go viral in 2015, the fitness app that I had, I mean, we got back in the day, 15,000 users in a day was a lot. We got 15,000 users from a Twitter campaign that got retweeted a lot. And basically all those users fell off. Contrast that with the people who were coming through. I was a writer for Mind Body Green at the time. We would get 2,000 downloads a day from Mind Body Green. And those users were super high quality because they're coming off. That's a very trusted website, very good reputation, very engaged readers. So the value of those downloads versus the ones who came through a viral Twitter campaign, very different. So that's, I think, just a common mistake that maybe more amateur marketers glamorize virality, or, if it's a client, they will ask you for something like that. So you have to be really careful there. But at the end of the day, you just don't want to waste your effort. You don't want to dump a lot of muscle into a campaign that just, the users fall off and disappear.
Yeah, absolutely. Your head is spinning as you see 1,000 people are grabbing your app, and you may lose the fact that the actual, the name of the game is retention and profitability of your project. You're going to regret in a few weeks that you weren't paying more attention to who are actually getting your app. And what I'm going to do in 30 days when you realize that, the bulk of those people are just gone, for good for another app. And that would be a really hard moment for you to reconcile. Now, what do you say about the elephant in the room, the TikTok, and it's the story of its success? Overall, do you see it as a positive, negative, probably kind of a net positive or net negative force on the societal level? Because at this point, it's really hard to think of anything, any topic, any politics, sport, music, whatever, that is not covered by TikTok. So how would you personally like the company to develop further? Any wishes in that regard?
That's a loaded question, Art.
Oh, yeah.
So, I worked with TikTok for 2 years in 2019. I led their growth marketing in Brazil, US, UK, Russia, Ireland, and a little bit in the Thailand area. At the time, I was working with the team out of Beijing, and they had some offices here in LA that they were building, but I got to see inside of how the company thought, how their algorithm worked, how the marketers think. And they are a different level of rigor coming out of China. They work really hard. There is no PowerPoint presentations. Everything is in spreadsheets. It's just a numbers game. And so, that forces us to hit targets and to really perform, or don't, and you're gone. At the time, TikTok had just gotten in trouble for marketing to the youth. And that's when like the Tide Pods, people eating Tide Pods on pizza, like that kind of stuff was happening. And then underage people were using the app without their parents' permission. And then people were accusing China of spying on people through the app. Now, they did have a lawsuit where they got caught leaving the camera on when people were not using the app, which I thought was very offensive. I thought that was very wrong what they did. And then I came to find out that Instagram and Facebook had both had the same charges against them. So I was like, okay, well, nobody's an angel here, that's for sure. So at the time, I definitely had mixed feelings about it. And I also questioned, how valuable are dance videos to our society? Since then, the algorithm, obviously extremely powerful. I think everyone's gotten, stuck in a TikTok black hole and, watched tons of videos in one sitting. But their algorithm is very powerful. Assuming their intentions are good, it's a good thing, right? People are seeing more content that's relevant. Therefore, they're learning more and they're gaining more value, hopefully. But the type of content being served up on TikTok has come a long way. It's not just dance videos anymore. My friend who's a lawyer is a TikTok influencer. We've got people doing business tips. We've got a lot of cool real estate videos. So it's expanded. I think they did what Vine never could do. And even Instagram and Reels are cool, but they're copying TikTok. TikTok is the one who got it right. They got short form video right. And so I think they've done a really good job, and they've managed to communicate those tools back to the users. So editing a 1 minute video down into 7 or 15 seconds used to be really difficult. Now you can select by videos and TikTok will drop them according to the music and literally create a cool reel style or TikTok style video for you in 30 seconds. So they've done a really good job of democratizing video editing. And I don't think they get enough credit for that. Whether they have good or bad intentions behind the scenes and whether there's political drivers, that's hard for me to say. I don't know if I want to speak on that publicly, but I don't see a whole lot of difference between TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and all these other platforms. They all have access to all of your data. They all have access to your camera, your microphone. Those ads are curated. So I don't know if I could speak on that, but the recent impact does look positive, and I hope it helps more creators become successful.
Jonathan, well, totally. Let's stay out of the politics here, because to me, the story with the acquiring the company by Oracle, it's still kind of a mystery, kind of a flick in the history. It didn't happen. Nobody knows when it's going to happen. Probably not, but who knows? One number sticks to me, which I've seen recently. In 2021, 9.6 trillion minutes people spent on Netflix and 3 times more on TikTok.
Wow.
24 plus something trillion minutes were spent on TikTok last year. So it's 3-4 times more than Netflix. And you don't pay anything for the content creation. This is the whole content created by people for free. And that shows you the level of growth and how much attention TikTok is actually pulling on its side from other time killers, as we have. Brad Hastings used to say that there were only 3 enemy for the Netflix: YouTube, Facebook, and sleep. So now it looks like the TikTok is grabbing that position of pushing Netflix in terms of how much time people are spending on a daily basis for something entertaining, fun, and it's totally understandable. The things that people are doing on TikTok are just amazing. how creative they are. All right, we've covered the major topic on the table of today, and there are just a few quick questions. I'm always asking the second part of the show every guest on this podcast, just a quick ones. So, what smartphone do you have now? Have you been switching between these two titans, Android and iOS?
I use an iPhone. I love it. It's an iPhone 13 Pro Max. I'm an Apple fanboy, mainly because I like the ecosystem. But I do have an Android, and I test on it every day for HeyPal. It's gotten a lot better. I can definitely say that.
So I can put one more guest to the iOS bucket.
Yep.
Okay. What was your first mobile phone, from that era before smartphones? First mobile phone you could carry in your pocket?
My sister had it must have been like a 5-pound, it was like one big battery and it had an antenna on it. And then the bottom was like a little flip where the microphone was. So like turned into a full phone and it was pay as you go. So I remember showing off to my friends. I think I was like 14 or 15 when she gave it to me. And I don't know what phone it was. It was before the Nokia. Like it was old school. I don't know if I ever made a phone call on it. I think it was just to show off.
Yeah, probably was even good for self-defense.
Paperweight.
Right. So let's get back to present. Imagine right now you've left your home and for whatever reason you left your smartphone sitting on your table next to your bed. What would be the most missing feature for you when you're out?
I think the voice notes feature. I think voice notes, especially when you're managing a big team, if you're driving, obviously it's not safe to text. Sending voice notes. Actually, when I worked at Comcast, the CEO would send a voicemail to everyone's mailbox. And I thought that was a really cool way to get a meeting done without having a meeting, right? You have 2-3 minutes of message you need to send and you don't have to type. That way you don't have to be looking down at your phone. You can still be up and moving. So I think the voice note feature is really, really amazing.
All right. So now I believe as much as you like your current model of the iPhone, probably there's something missing in your opinion. Could be hardware, software, not necessarily more, probably less, probably, getting a better balance between the using app and using the phone and not using it. So what would be that thing that you would like your iPhone 13 Pro to get to become a better tool for you?
Well, the more I study the super successful people, the more I see that their technology does not own them. A lot of them don't let their kids have smartphones. A lot of them don't use their smartphone much themselves. I'm big on meditation and mindfulness and being focused on what you're doing in that moment. So I actually, I think it's a good test of management skills to delegate and trust rather than actively overmanage or micromanage. So just in general, using fewer apps on your phone, right? Messaging and calling, all your subordinates should be able to do the rest of the technical stuff. So it's a weird, place to draw the line, but I think it's a pursuit for me. I think, forget who, one of my friend's coaches said, I want you to manage your work just from your phone today. Don't get on the computer. Don't get to, have all of this robust technology. You're going to have to delegate everything. So in order to buy our time and our happiness and our focus back, I think it's a good practice to delegate to a point where you can just do it all from the phone. You just tell somebody what to do and you get back to doing what makes you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this case, if you can pull it off, you will not have to get your life back because you'll never lose it. That's really smart. Now, before I let you go, just very final question. How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
Well, first, I use the HeyPal app every day. So download it. Happy to chat with you in Spanish. I'm learning Spanish. If that's not your vibe, then you can follow at It's J Maxim, ITS J Maxim on Instagram. Or I have a podcast as well called Zen Business that studies executives who meditate. So if you're interested in that.
Okay, that's cool. Awesome. Thank you for your time and coming on our podcast, Jonathan. Thank you.
All right. Much appreciate you. Wonderful questions. Wonderful host. Thank you so much for having me.
Terrific. Thank you, Jonathan. And that was Jonathan Maxim, CEO at HeyPal. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Basically, just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. We release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you will be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review and comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.